When you need a sign in the nick of time.
This is the real estate sign of the future. This is the real estate sign for today. This is a tubular sign. Notice it comes in a tube with a bag. This is the sign right here. He was opening up the trunk of his brand new Cadillac and pulling a real estate sign out of the back of it with a blanket wrapped around it. And I looked up to him and I said, Uncle Ray, I said, why do you have a blanket wrapped around a real estate sign? And he said, well, because it scratches the trunk of my car. And as he pulled the sign on out, it left kind of an impression on me, and I'll explain that here in a minute. But we were a few minutes later putting the nuts and bolts together on the rider, and I was holding the nuts in the front yard, and he was screwing the bolt in, and I accidentally dropped one of the nuts in the grass, and I couldn't find it. And he looked up at me and he said, no big deal, I have more of them in the trunk. He said, but you know, someday, Kenny, he said, somebody's going to reinvent the yard sign. And I said, what's a yard sign? And he said, well, it's the same thing as a real estate sign, it's just that it gets used for a lot more things than just for real estate signs. He said, but somebody's going to make it collapsible, kind of like the lawn chair. Well, I didn't really think a lot about that at the moment, but 1 week later, I was on an airplane getting ready to fly to see a football team play Wichita State University in Utah. And the last minute before the plane took off, before the ladder was brought up, my mother had pulled up, who I hadn't seen for 60 days, onto the private airstrip. And here I was sitting next to the football coach and his wife, and all the A-string football team was on the plane. And the seat for my uncle, and he was still off the plane. He greeted my mother. I got off the plane to see my mother, and she had a premonition after she saw me, and she said, you know, I just don't want you to go on this flight. Well, I was heartbroken, as you can guess, at 11 years old. I told all my friends I was going to go with the A-string football team. But long story short, I didn't go. I went on to school that day, and my aunt went to my place. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when I got home from school, I turned on the television and found out that the airplane had crashed and that everybody on it had passed away, including my uncle and aunt. Well, it left a huge impression on me, as you might guess, but I recalled that week prior, and it kept running over and over in my head about what my uncle had said about collapsible real estate signs. I needed to do something about that story that had happened over a 45-year period, that I possibly needed to be the one to reinvent the real estate sign. So I met with Russell, and shortly after I met with Russell, I challenged him to this idea of building a real estate sign. In fact, he did meet the challenge, and I was shocked when I saw this design of the sign. I told him, I said, Russell, you know, the things that are important is that I want a sign that collapses down as small as possible, and I also wanted to where it's rust-free, and I said I like to have it to not have any nuts and bolts. I'd also like for it to be easy to change out the sign face, and I don't want it to rattle, make noise, and I said it would really be cool if it fit into a bag. Everyone will use tubular signs. Churches, retail, real estate, politicians, restaurants, personal uses like garage sales, birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, newborn babies, for sale by owners, creative, whatever you can think of. There's also going to be our new inside stands, which will be available also soon, which they'll convert your outdoor tubular sign to an indoor tubular sign. It will stand just a little bit taller as well. We called it tubular signs because, well, actually it was my wife who said, you know, if the average age of a real estate agent is 56 years old, and that's a lot of the people that's going to be buying these signs, what was really popular back in those times, people who would know that, would be obviously someone my age, was that the saying, totally tubular man. So we thought, well, the signs are tubular in shape, so that was where the name came from.
Listen, I've got these signs in the back. I'm sorry. These signs make so much noise. Totally tubular, man.
With your support, we can offer much more competitive pricing. We have acquired some of the best manufacturers in the country, from 100% all aluminum parts to the best quality vinyl product on the market with a 3-year warranty.
Totally tubular, man.